Have you got a favourite pair of soft, comfy jersey shorts that you just have to replicate? Today's the day. We're taking that darker black pair and making the grey pair. So lay out your shorts along the crotch curve. Now you can see that bit's folded back because I'm working on the back piece right now. So I've just allowed a fold to be there because I can't fold it neatly in half. We'll deal with that in a minute. Get in what you can. And when you come to the top, remember that there's some elastication there, at least on my pair. You might even have some chunkier elastic, so this will be difficult. You will need to have to stretch that out. And we've tucked underneath to get the side seam there. And now I'm just unfolding that crotch curve, making sure not to stretch anything while I do this, because all I want is to get that that back piece with the correct shape. It's quite long when you've got soft jersey shorts that are loose like this, and extend that out. All right, now I can smooth in all the lines and make them a little bit more visible to you. I am working with biro here rather than texter, so I apologise for the visibility. Sketch in your waist. We are coming back to that. We will do all sorts of checks to make sure that this is correct. Label your patterns as always. And now let's move on and get the front done. So far I've done a little bit here. Let's lie that back down again and see how I'm going. So I'm grabbing the front crotch and folding that in half. And it's not going to fold perfectly because that's not the way that pants are normally drafted. So each little bit that I work on, I try not to stretch out. I have to stretch out the waist, of course, because that's gathered in, but I don't want to distort the fabric. So I've just gone under and done the side seam there. And let's get the leg hem done. That was fairly easy. And we're ready to go in. Just get that side seam really correct because that's underneath now, because the back piece actually should be a little bit larger. It might be the same size, but it should never be smaller. All right, so that's my front piece. And now we'll go and do some checks. So without tape measure, we're going to do all sorts of apples to apples checks. So side seams first, and if they are not correct, go to your garment and actually have a look at what's going on. You can make any correction you want. I'm going to have a look at the inner leg here. I'm sorry I'm off camera, but I didn't have that long enough, so I'm correcting that and making sure that also the angle of that is correct. So this is the front side. It's not perpendicular. There is a little bit of a slant to that crotch or the leg line there. All right, let's get the hemline absolutely correct. It was pretty good to begin with, actually. Colour it all in. And let's have a look at those side seams again. I'm not liking those. I'm going to go again and do checks. And the reason I'm showing you this and not a perfectly laid out simple pattern that just falls out is that this is really how it goes when you're cloning. You have to go back and forth, you have to do checks, you have to match up, and you have to decide where things might have gone wrong, particularly with a jersey fabric, because it can distort quite easily because it's got stretch in it. All right, let's get that. I'm really trying to get that right because of the stretch in the waistband. And again, I am coming back to that because I know that that will have probably affected things. But as much as I can, I'm getting it correct, and do this as many times as you need to do. Now at the moment I'm working on the hemline, and I somehow have got a shorter hemline here. I'm going to double check, triple check, and 1,000 times check it because I'm a bit suspicious that that shorter line probably isn't right. Okay, let's just have a look again at my pieces. You can see I do this quite a lot until I'm confident. Okay, that checks out, that curve checks out. Let's go back in and get it as smooth as we can, laid out flat. And let's get the waistline. I'm just using my fingertips here to get the shape. I'm feeling that seam line and tracing underneath the fabric. All right, that's got that a little bit better, but it has changed my side seam. All right, we're going to have to do something about that. I'm actually going to cut them out and we'll do some truing up with the cut pieces. That's a little bit easier. Now we can match them directly on top. Okay, it seemed to work out okay. Not too bad. But I am going to do measurement checks. Now, like I said to you before, the back is usually big because you've got a bottom to accommodate. And you can see by my measurements, it's not. So I'm going back in, I'm actually going to measure my garment and I'm going to measure it with that properly stretched out, and that is why I've got a knee on it. So you either need to borrow another pair of hands or get a foot or a knee onto it so you can stretch out an elastic waistband. Okay, once I've got the correct length, I'm actually going to add to the side seam just with some sticky tape so that that is going to be wide enough. Okay, here are all my pattern pieces laid out and we're ready to cut. Now I am a little bit different. I don't put seam allowance into my patterns. So I'm calculating seam allowance when I cut. So I've just shifted my pattern up a bit because I didn't have enough to do one of my hemline cuts, because that's going to need a little bit to also turn up into a hem. So think about what kind of seams you're doing and what allowance therefore you need if you are not confident doing it at the cutting stage, because I know it does require a steady hand and a bit of experience to think through. I think it's really good because it makes your brain nimble and really understand how things go together. But if you're not at that stage yet, then you go ahead and you put your seam allowances into your pattern pieces. And if you're not going to be doing this on an overlocker, if you're working on a sewing machine and you're a beginner, I suggest 1 centimetre to 1.5 centimetres as your seam lines for your basic seams. And then your hem, well, it's dependent on how you're going to do your hem. I think probably 2 centimetres might be quite nice. Okay, so we've just about cut everything out now. I've got a bit of a blunt rotary cutter, unfortunately. And this is what our final cut pieces look like. The next piece is, you will have noticed that my shorts already that I'm cloning from have a soft jersey waistband. And yes, I did put that on about 4 years ago. I've been wearing those shorts for about 4 summers. I'm also a bit fatter. That's why this pattern here is about 15 years old. If you'd like to know how to do up that pattern, you can have a look in the top right hand corner. I'm sewing up my waistband now, just down that side seam, right sides together. That's all that we do because I've got a fold in this pattern, and that's just a tube that we formed. It will be folded down when it's on our body to make it an easy job. If you want more tuition, I will link a video series for you. Short sew up time. Okay, so I need to match my right sides together, and I'm just pinning or pegging down the front crotch line, keeping everything nicely aligned. I'll do that on the front crotch curve as well as the back front crotch curve. And we'll go over to sewing straight away. If you're doing this on a sewing machine, you'll be doing a narrow zigzag. And if you're doing this on a sewing machine, then you know that you drive the machine around the curves. But when we do it on a overlocker, well, we don't drive the machine around the curves. We actually make the material lie flat, and that produces the curve. So let me show you here on the back crotch curve. Right sides together, keeping the edges together, and we're approaching the point where it starts to curve. Now I just straighten out that material, keeping the edges together, of course. So straightening out into a straight line, sew down, and you'll be surprised because yes, there's still a curve there. All right, let's put the crotch point together. we're going to push the seam allowance one way and the other seam allowance the other way, and that reduces the bulk, which is always nice. And then we'll just peg that crutch point in place, and then we will peg down the inner legs. So from the crutch point down to the hem, and then the same again, crutch point down to the hem on the other inner leg. And we're almost ready to go and sew that up. So it's a hem to hem sew, making sure the crutch point, you see that seam allowance being made sure it's one way and then the other side pushed the other way. We keep that there, and this is what we get. If we turn that over, we can see how well we did this. A perfectly intersecting cross means it's perfect. This jumble is our shorts. Okay, there's the crutch seam and the inner legs was what I showed first. So now we're going to find the side seams and just peg them down together. And it's a simple sew up for your side seams, whether it's on your sewing machine with a narrow zigzag. Remember, you don't have to finish the edges when it's a jersey material because jersey doesn't fray. So it's quite easy to do on a sewing machine with a narrow zigzag as your seam line. And of course, with a overlocker or a serger, we know how those work. Just cut a little bit and sew in a straight line, and it will be perfect for any kind of knit. Side seams are now done, and it's time to mark the quarter points. Now from my pattern, I knew that my front and my back had exactly the same sizing, so I can match them up on all the seams. So my quarter points are marked there. Here's my waistband, and I folded it in half and then half again to pin those waistband quarter points. We will now align those. So what you'll see is the markers all being pegged together all the way around at each quarter point. And this helps the waistband have an even tension all the way around the shorts. Now that tension, you can see the shorts are quite gapy. They're a lot longer than the waistband because the waistband is acting as an elastic, while it's always so gentle on your tummy. Let's sew this together. We go from quarter point to quarter point and we hold that tension in the waistband. So the shorts do not have any tension in them. That gets plopped on top of the waistband, and I hold that tension with my right hand always, so that my shorts just sit on top and the waistband has the tension in it. Now it will curl with these kinds of materials, so you can see me really trying to fiddle out the curls as it goes along. This is the difficult part. If you're using a sewing machine, holding tension with your machine is going to be so much harder. So I suggest you use one hand behind the needle. That's a quarter point there that I'm just picking up so that I can get the tension in. Again, I'm fiddling with the curls here. So if you're on the sewing machine, put one hand behind the needle to hold the material, one front hand in front of the needle to hold the material, and you'll hold tension with both hands. We wish we had more hands, but we don't, okay? You're going to need your hands with your sewing machine to hold the tension in the fabric so that that waistband is always held with tension and the shorts do not have tension. I'm almost finished here, so I'm just going to go over the front start of my overlocking. And it looks like this. Now, do not be scared that this looks all rippled. People get really scared about this, but this is a feature of stretch sewing. Once that's on the body, all of those ripples, let's turn it to the right side, but all of those ripples will go away because that's measured perfectly to stretch to your body. Hemming. Now, if your material, I'm just showing you how I'm lining it up, okay? So I'm going to keep a straight line. So pick a point on your machine and pick a point where you see the needle, and then you'll have a perfectly straight line of sewing. Okay, but back to the hemming thing. If your material is really, really stretchy and the design of your shorts is not very baggy, so you're going to be putting some kind of pressure on this hem stitch, then you will be choosing a stretchy hem stitch. I'll put a video up in the corner so that will help you out. But let me explain what I'm doing here as well. I'm just holding and hiding that chain up there so that it gets tucked neatly away. Okay, so that's all I'm doing there, just to keep things very neat. Now the hem I'm doing, my shorts are really baggy. There will be no tension placed around the legs of my shorts because they're baggy. And my material is very well behaved. It's an organic cotton jersey, and you can see it just folds up like a dream. Okay, so I'm really not having to do much effort at all to make it behave, and it's sewing very well. So for all of those reasons, I'm just choosing to do a straight stitch as my hemming stitch. That's it. Now you could also do a stretchy hem or a stretchy twin needle hem. That's perfectly okay to do on this material as well. So it's really just what is most convenient as well as functional, and that's how you choose a hem. So I'm just going to straight stitch all the way around. I'm almost finished, and remember you've got 2 legs to do. Now the other thing that I'm going to do, apart from always cleaning up my threads, is I'm going to just do a decorative element. So this is the cheats way. Okay, it looks like that at the moment. This is the cheats way of doing or simulating twin needle sewing. But unlike real twin needles hemming, this won't stretch. So I'm just going to do another row of stitching, and I'm going to keep it as close and consistently close. Here I am lining it up, so my needle will be consistently spaced against that existing stitch line. I'm just going to keep it as consistent as I can all the way around, and that's the cheats way of a twin hemmed look, twin needle hemming. Okay, just with a single needle, it's simulated. And I'm only doing that for an aesthetic appeal, really. On the inside, you can see it has caught some of the edges further, which is nice, but it's not perfect. So I've just done this for the aesthetic outer appeal. And there you go, that's what it looks like on the outside. These are my original shorts that I used for the model. And as you can see, I've already done some things to them for having years and years of comfy wear. So I put the soft jersey waistband on, I put the belt tube on, and they're from a very soft polyester, stretchy fabric. So we don't expect my new ones to behave the same way. It's a crisper, organic cotton jersey. But the fit is fabulous. And these are my final shorts. They're a little more crisp. They're going to wear in nicely, and I really, really enjoy them. I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial as well. Please do subscribe. You can click on my face, that will have appeared, and enjoy your comfy life. I will see you next time.